I'm Jodi, founder of the travel blog Family Travel Magazine and mom of 2 college students.
I'm Anna, owner of Waves and Wandering LLC, which is a full-service travel agency. I'm also mom to 3 daughters and grandmother to 3 grandchildren. Welcome to our show.
Let's just start this episode by talking about recent visits to our favorite shore vacation spots. Because in this episode, we're going to chat about your summer shore rental. And we wanted to start by talking about our personal connection to some of the most popular East Coast shore destinations. So I live not too far from the Jersey Shore at the southern end of the state because we have a lot of shore here in Jersey. And Jodi, you're not far from Cape Cod.
Right.
Growing up in my family meant taking trips over the summer down the shore, which is what we call it in Jersey, or to the beach, because my aunt and uncle lived in the Outer Banks of North Carolina, which is where my sister lives. So that was always going to the beach. And then my dad's family always rented a house at the shore. So when we were in Jersey, it was the shore. Before Snooki took over, it was a nice place to be. We're also fairly close to Delaware beaches. Rehoboth Beach is not that far from us, Ocean City, Maryland. So while we're thinking about planning our own summer beach vacations, we wanted to just chat with you guys so that you have a better idea of booking your own beach vacation. There's a lot that goes into this.
Definitely.
And Jodi, you have a lot of experience with this, so we'll let you kick this off.
Yeah, so we have a house on Cape Cod, and we did rent it out for a few years now. We keep it for ourselves, for our vacations and our family's vacations. But definitely kind of come at this topic from like a little bit of a different perspective in terms of like having rented a place out before. But I do think it's interesting that you call it shore, and I know a lot of other places call it the beach. So yeah, here in Massachusetts, it's definitely the beach or the ocean. But yeah, water, sand, summer.
I don't know why it's the shore here. It's always been that way.
Yeah.
I don't know if somebody in Jersey decided, oh no, we have to be different from everybody else, or what the deal was.
Yeah. Well, whatever it is, we are going to cover it in this episode.
And I'm going to jump right in because you are kind of a resident expert. So what is the best time to book your shore rental or your beach rental?
So I would say now is a really good time. So, it's cold. You might not be thinking of summer, but, these places, a lot of times, people will like come back. This is the type of vacation where people will come back again and again. And so you might find that a lot of places already have a lot of bookings because people are rebooking for the same week. And, if you have stayed at a place before and you like it, and we're mostly here talking about a vacation home rental versus a hotel, but it's true either way, that they might be full. If you're looking at booking a house and it's the same house, it's a good idea to kind of follow up with those folks and see if you can get the same week. But otherwise, yeah, now's the time.
Yeah, and the same is true for Jersey, and I know the Outer Banks. My sister was one of those people before she bought her house there. She rented the same house the same time every single summer. So
Right.
That house essentially never went back on the market as an available rental because she would deposit on it before she left her vacation. So it was already off the market before it had a chance to go out there. And the same is true of a lot of Jersey Shore houses. The people love it so much that when they leave, they immediately contact the owner and book it for the following summer. So you really want to move quickly and early in the season if you want the best access to inventory.
Yeah, and it makes sense for the owner too. Like it's much better to rent to people that you've rented to before. So, because they're reliable and they've stayed there before. So definitely start now if you haven't already.
Yeah. And what are your best tips for saving money or spending less at the Cape? I know some parts of the shore here are more expensive. So what are your best money saving tips?
So I think, the issue when you are talking about summer vacations in the Northeast in general is that you are talking about a time where there's a very limited season, right? So we're not talking a full year. Really, with the school being out, like if talking about school, you're talking about like a 2-month period. And so saving money during this time isn't necessarily easy. One thing you could do is try to go in an off-season time. And by off-season, I don't mean like now. I mean like if you could go at some point in June, if you can go in September, that's definitely probably a more affordable time. Sometimes you can get a discount if you stay longer.
Mhm.
So like a week trip, because, someone has to pay for the cleaning in between.
Right.
So if you're staying for 2 nights, the place still needs to be cleaned. If you're staying for a week, it only needs to be cleaned once.
Right.
So, there's definitely some opportunity there. And then so that's just saving money on your property. But then the other ways you can save money is if you are staying in a home or any place with a kitchen, you can prepare some of your own meals. And I
Yeah.
find that that's especially helpful for breakfast and lunch. So pack a picnic if you go to the beach. Don't rely on kind of getting your snacks there. But stop at the grocery store, pick up your juices and your sandwiches and your chips and that type of stuff. It'll definitely be more affordable.
My stepmom is Italian, and she owned a house in Ocean City, Maryland. And I will remember for the rest of my life, packing for her to go to Ocean City meant big pots of meatballs and sausage and rolls from the local bakery so that we had fresh rolls. Like that was part of the packing, is we were going to have the kitchen, and she was going to take full advantage of the kitchen. And I know here in Jersey, a lot of times you can save not a ton of money in the middle of summer, but if you just go a couple of blocks off the beach, like there's your beachfront homes. But if you can go and either, walk to the beach a couple of blocks or drive your car, because I know in the Outer Banks, it's a little easier to park at the beach, not so much at the Jersey Shore. But if you just consider a property that's a couple of blocks away, that'll help lower the cost a little bit. Does the Cape work the same way?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, anything that's going to be walkable to the beach is probably going to be more expensive and, more booked up. So looking for a place where you can drive to the beach. And if you're worried about parking, which, can be a concern, and it's definitely a concern, especially like those days where it gets like exceptionally hot, it's a matter of just going to the beach early. So, you can't just pull up at 7:30 and want a spot. That's not always going to happen. So if you are staying somewhere where you're going to need to drive, then you'll need to plan your day a little better.
Yeah, I know a lot of the shore towns, there is no parking lot. It's really just street parking. So you do want to, if you're going to be a couple blocks off the beach and you're going to have to drive, you want to get there early. But I think that's why God invented those wagons, the ones that you can load up with your beach chairs and everything else so that you can take those.
Yeah, and if you are staying at a vacation home, you might want to ask what they do have available for you. So they might have the wagon and the chairs. Typically, I guess it would depend on the town. I know in our town, our pass for the beach is based on our license plate. So that's not something we can offer up with the home.
Right.
Depending on the town, maybe they do have a pass to a private beach or something else. So definitely ask about that. But then also just, ask what's there. Because if you don't have to bring the wagon or purchase the wagon and the chairs and the umbrellas, that's a great thing to kind of avoid having to buy.
Yeah. And so here in Jersey, because we do have a lot of beach towns, in order to keep costs under control, you can look at the beach towns that don't have all of the amenities. Like Wildwood, New Jersey, for example, has a boardwalk, and the boardwalk has games of chance and amusements and piers that you can have, water parks and miniature golf and stuff like that. But if you go to some of the other beach towns like Brigantine or Belmar or Long Beach, they don't have the same amenities. So the quieter towns tend to be a little bit cheaper. Do you have anything like that in your area?
So the Cape's a little interesting just because of the shape of it. It's obviously it's part of a smaller state. And so you would think it would be kind of small, but it can take a long time to go from, the bridge to the tip of Provincetown. And so you do need to kind of consider the town. There's beaches everywhere. So there are more expensive towns. We really like Yarmouth, which is kind of right in the middle of the Cape. It's not necessarily as luxurious as some of the other areas, but it has a lot of the family-friendly amenities like tons of mini golf, really fun family restaurants, super drivable to other areas of the Cape. So, I'd just recommend kind of looking at all the towns, seeing what you think you're going to want to do. And you can definitely, day trip to these different places. But if you're looking to kind of have a home base, there are definitely more affordable cities. And the whole Cape in general is kind of expensive in this.
Yeah. And I think depending on which Jersey Shore town you go to, it's not that far if you want to stay in Brigantine and then take a ride over to Atlantic City for the boardwalk or the casino or some of the nicer restaurants. And some of the other shore towns are within an easy driving distance to something with more amenities. So it might be better to look at Sea Isle City or something that's not as busy or crowded, and then just take a 20 or 30-minute drive over to another shore town to do some of the stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you do go on a vacation and it's your first time doing it, drive around. Once you go once, you're going to want to do this as like a recurring family vacation. Drive around to some other areas and see if there's somewhere else you'd rather stay. Definitely.
Yeah, for sure. Because there's a different vibe. I mean, it's all,
yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's all the shore, but there's one thing to be in Cape May where it's sort of, old Victorian houses and really beautiful shops and restaurants and Wildwood, which is more family friendly. So it's more of a frenzied free for all when you go to Wildwood. So if you're looking at some of these beach places or beach rentals, is it better to book your own place or should you look at hotels, motels, that kind of a thing?
So on the Cape, we have everything. There are like luxurious family or luxurious resorts that are family friendly, places where people have these big weddings, super high end, really nice golf courses. So there are a lot of really great kind of family beach resorts that are maybe not so luxurious, but are still very, very, very nice and fun and have, great locations and amenities. And then we also, in some of the towns, do have kind of your typical chain hotel. So those are options. You kind of have to look at what your preferred experience is, right? If you want a big pool, if you want to be able to like walk right down to the beach. I think renting a family hotel is very different than renting a vacation home because of the experience you're going to get. So with a vacation home, you'll get multiple rooms, you'll get a kitchen. You might get, like I mentioned before, the beach supplies that you can use. There might be board games and puzzles and that type of thing. You might have access to a barbecue grill. So if you want to do like a little grilling or something, fridges so you can pack your lunches. Those are all really, really good amenities to have when you're talking about a beach vacation. But, there's a downside to vacation homes. There's maybe a little more just of the unknown, right? If you haven't stayed there before, if you don't quite know what to expect, it's somewhat whether they live there or they rent it out, but it's not going to be a hotel. So, there's definitely some differences there. And I think it comes down to what you want to experience and the type of amenities you want to have. And regardless, I'd say look at reviews, get recommendations from friends, stay at places you've stayed in before, go with something that may be a little more known than unknown.
So the Jersey Shore towns don't have a lot of chain motels or hotels. You're not going to go and find Hiltons and Marriotts and things like that. There are a couple more in the Outer Banks, but we usually have like the mom and pop kind of a motel place. And I think if you're looking for something that does have a lot of amenities, you're really better off getting a house. I had to giggle the other day. I saw an Airbnb commercial and it was a girls' weekend. And it was like 5 girls all trying to brush their teeth and dry their hair and everything at the same sink in a motel. And I was like, yes, that's why you need to have a house because the struggle is real. I have 3 daughters.
Yeah.
There's no way one bathroom is going to cut it. So, I mean, you've got to make some sacrifices. So
yeah,
I definitely think that at least in Jersey, where there aren't a lot of the big name hotels, you're definitely better off. Most of them tend to be farther away from the beach. The beach motels are like back from the fees. They're the old school, beach kind of bungalow rooms and stuff like that. So I definitely think renting a place is the way to go for a shore vacation.
Yeah. And you can save money by being able to cook and you get more space. And then, you get that rainy day and everybody's kind of in one hotel room. And if you have a vacation home, then, that's time to pull out the puzzles and the board games or maybe go to the movies or do something. But yeah, I think that that type of vacation kind of lends itself more to have the more space.
Yeah. And some of them are pet friendly. I know the one that my sister rented every year let her bring her dog. So that was a huge motivation for her to go back to that kind of a place as opposed to getting a hotel or a motel.
Right. Right.
Would you recommend that people rent through a management company, or should they be looking at the bigger, well-known platforms?
Yeah. So I think when it comes to a popular vacation destination, and we're specifically talking about beaches here, but this is true, I think, for anywhere, you're going to find management companies that specialize in that area. So this is a company that will have their own portfolio of homes to rent. They are basically representing the individual owners of those houses, so they don't necessarily own the houses. Sometimes you might find these homes on the bigger platforms, and sometimes you might have to go directly to that company. Now, if you have to go directly to the company, it might be a little more difficult to find beyond doing like an internet search. So, you might see signs. Sometimes properties will actually have a sign saying like rent from this company or managed by this company. So there are some benefits to renting through a management company. And I'll run through kind of some of the ones that I am specifically aware of. One is that you have like a third party that basically looks at the home and gives recommendations. So, things like, you should have, like when we rented our place out, we were advised to have like at least 2 propane tanks at all times, right? So that it didn't run out on the guests. We had professionals that came in addition to the cleaning staff that would come and do a kind of a checklist to make sure things in the house were still good. And one of the things you might not think of is when you get into the summer rental season in a popular place in the Northeast where the season is very short, you're like back to back, right? Like somebody's checking out, somebody's checking in. In these types of communities, if the AC goes out, and it does happen, right? You're not necessarily able to get someone in right away. You might want to, the owner might try their hardest. A management company, first of all, might have broader contacts than an individual owner. But also, like, I know our management company had like AC units in backstock that they would pull out and put in the home because you know how it is. It's 95 degrees for 3 days in, New England or New Jersey. And suddenly, like, all the stores are sold out of AC units.
Yeah.
So kind of having like just a bigger corporation, and I'm not talking, a mega corporation, but just like beyond just like this owner who may or may not be in the city or the town and may or may not have the contacts to get things kind of fixed immediately. A management company will have those up.
So, and when you say management company, is that the same as looking for a real estate agent that specializes in rentals?
Yeah, it could be a real estate company. It could just be like a vacation rental company that's specific to vacation rentals. It's not necessarily a realtor, but yeah, like, like you might see something if you do an internet search for something, for vacation rentals, you might find like a company that's like, Massachusetts Vacation Rentals or something like that.
Yeah. I think we've pretty much I know I've given all of my best tips, but if you have any questions about shore rentals, beach rentals, or you're thinking about doing it for the first time, definitely reach out to us, leave us a message, leave us a comment, and just let us know that, you're planning this and whatever questions you have, we're happy to answer.
Absolutely.
Mail call. Question stories, let's hear it all. From you to us, it's wonder and chat. So grab a seat, let's talk just like that.
We had some questions from our last episode, which was all about Princess Cruises. So I'm going to just ask Anna some of these questions. First of all, are Princess Cruises more expensive than the other cruise lines? So we didn't really talk about prices.
Yeah, so Princess tends to be a little bit higher, but I think there are a couple reasons for that. First of all, you're not really going to see the $299 cruises with Princess because they don't do the shorter cruises. So that's the first reason that they look more expensive. But they also tend to be more of a premium cruise line, one of the higher end cruise lines, but they're definitely comparable to a Disney cruise, a Virgin Voyages, maybe a little more expensive than Royal and Carnival, but they're not priced out of the ballpark for your average vacation.
Great. And, You mentioned last time about, you could go to the pub or go for pizza on your cruise rather than go to the main dining room, but we didn't talk a ton about the dining options. So could you talk a little bit about kind of the types of restaurants?
Yeah, I know people, especially if you're a Carnival cruiser or you're a Norwegian cruiser, there are just a ton of dining options. Princess has really stepped up their game. You will now find, like on Sun Princess, there is casual dining and there is specialty dining. And specialty dining are the restaurants that we're familiar with on other cruise ships, where it's more of a, not formal, but kind of a step up from the main dining room. You dress a little bit nicer, it costs a little bit of money, and you go there for dinner. On Princess, they have both lunch options in the casual dining venues, and they have dinner options in the specialty dining. There's a sit-down pizza place, there's the Irish pub, there is a sushi restaurant. There's something called the International Cafe, which is literally open 24 hours a day. You can go any time of the day or night, and they have kind of time-appropriate snacks. Like maybe you'll go during a happy hour in the evening or a cocktail hour, and they will have little individual charcuteries, little cups of nuts. They have breakfast sandwiches. They have pastries all day long. They have desserts. They have lunch sandwiches. So there is dining across the board. And not only do they have the sit-down pizza place, which is a casual dining, so that's a little bit of extra money. It's like $15 extra a person. They also have, you just go out on the deck, like you're probably familiar with a lot of cruise lines, and they have a pizza parlor that it's free pizza. You just go and help yourself to the pizza.
So sounds like there's a lot of choices. Do these they kind of carry across the cruise line?
They do. Their newer ships definitely have more dining options, but we have a couple of cruises coming up on older cruise ships. They all have the Irish pub. They all have specialty pizza. So you will find specialty dining, and they do a lot of partnerships with celebrity chefs. So you're going to find upscale dining with known names kind of a thing. So you definitely have a lot of choices.
And what about a drinks package? So I know some of the cruise lines like Royal Caribbean have a drinks package. Virgin Voyages has their bar tab. Disney doesn't really have a drinks package, but they have deals. Like, what's the situation on Princess?
I am going to tell you that I love the Princess system better than any other system. Princess has two options. One is Princess Plus. The other is Princess Premier. With both of those options, it's not only a drinks package, but you get drinks, Wi-Fi, and all of your gratuities. With Princess Plus, you also get 2 casual dinings over the course of your cruise. So if you're on a 7-night cruise, you can go to the pizza parlor one night, you can go to the Irish pub one night, you could do lunch at either of those locations. If you have Princess Premier, you have unlimited specialty dining. So on top of your gratuities, your drinks package, and the drinks packages are, Princess Plus is just your run-of-the-mill drinks. Princess Premier is basically an unlimited top shelf liquors, all of that. But you're still getting your drinks package, your gratuities, your Wi-Fi. And then on top of that, you have unlimited specialty dining, unlimited casual dining. You also get, they call them premium desserts. Now, I don't know who's eating these things, but if you've ever seen those milkshakes that have like the cakes and the donuts and the candies
like
coming
the
out
black
of the
cap
top.
ones. Yeah.
Yes. You can have 2 of those a day for free.
My goodness.
I know, who's doing that? It's crazy. Princess Premier, you also have some specialty seating. So if you go to the show, you can sit in the kind of the reserved section. So there are a lot of benefits with this. I definitely love the Princess drinks package because I'm not a huge drinker. So I feel like I'm spending about the same as I would on like a Royal Caribbean for just the drinks package. And I'm getting so much more.
Yeah, that sounds like a great way to budget in advance too for your trip.
Absolutely. And right now, the Princess Plus package is about $60 for your cruise. And that's drinks up to $15, all of your gratuities. And this is for a 7-night cruise. So, you're covering a lot of area with that $60.
Yeah. It sounds like a great outfit.
Also with Princess Premier, so Princess has a medallion system, and you get a medallion, and that is basically your room key if you want to charge drinks or whatever. But if you have the Princess Premier, when you scan it, the medallion at your door, you are entered into like just a random prize drawing. and you will go and you will scan it in, and it will tell you whether you've won a prize or not won a prize. I don't know what the prizes are because we didn't win them. And I think part of the reason we didn't win any is because the medallions are so good. I'm just going to throw this out there for people that, like me, we've had 3 children, and, when you have to go to the bathroom, it's an urgent thing. You've got to pee right this very minute. Now, your medallion actually will open your door when you're still a couple feet away from it. So when you get to the door, you literally just have to push it open. There have been times where I've been on another cruise and I'm fumbling trying to pull out my key card or make sure my band is lined up to the thing. You don't have to worry about that with Princess. You just sail right in. It is nice. All right. People pee. People know.
Biology. We just lower the...
I'm going for the gas station attendant.
Anna, it would have all been different if you mentioned just having a little kid with you who had to go.
I am too far removed from little kids, and I'm at that age where if I sneeze, all hell could break loose. We just don't know. I know. I should have said kids. I'm drinking a lot of water here to not cough, and that's primary what was in my mind. Let's talk about something that is always in the news when it comes to Walt Disney World. And Jodi, I'm going to let you take the reins on this one, but is a Disney vacation unaffordable for people?
Yeah, so there was an article in the Wall Street Journal that we recently saw. It was titled, "Even Disney is Worried About the High Cost of a Disney Vacation," which is a great headline, I think, because
yeah, for sure.
It talked about price hikes, and obviously it's talking about Disneyland and Disney World, and whether or not that's out of reach for many Americans. And I thought it was an interesting topic because, as I mentioned in our last episode, I recently went to Disneyland for a day, and my park ticket was $206, which is kind of a lot, right?
Yeah, it's crazy.
And obviously, there are ways that so the tickets are based on, the expected busyness of the parks. So that was a particularly high day during a festival on a weekend. So that's high end. But, it looks like crowds maybe are leaning a little bit lower in the parks. So with that and the fact that now if you want Lightning Lane, that's an additional fee. What do you think generally about whether or not this is becoming too expensive for people?
So my thinking always was, and my mother used to ask me all the time, because again, growing up, we were Jersey Shore people. And my mom, I think in her brain was thinking, okay, we can literally drive to the Jersey Shore in 30 minutes. We can be there. We're in the motel or in the house. We're doing the boardwalk, but it's all reasonably priced things. Like we're eating pizza or sausage and peppers or whatever. And it's really reasonable. But I sat down with my mom one time and I laid out for her the cost of a theme park ticket into Walt Disney World versus the cost of going to the boardwalk. My parents were huge when it came to like the and I don't know if this is a concept you're familiar with from Massachusetts, but our boardwalks had wheels, and you would go and you would put like $1 down and you would get 5 numbers and they would spin the wheel. And if your number came up, you won a prize. Mm-hmm. My parents would do that for an hour. And there were 3 of us, so they would hand money to each of us to put down on these wheels, and they would play themselves. And then you would go to the rides. Now, when I was a kid, the rides were, you had to buy tickets, and like the bigger rides were 7 tickets and the smaller rides were 3 tickets. Now they have wristbands, so it's a little bit more affordable. But when I laid all that out for my mother, the cost of the Jersey Shore was pretty much in line with the cost of a Walt Disney World vacation. And I'm still going to stand by that. And I know Disney does dynamic pricing, but the Jersey Shore, the boardwalk and the rides and all, they close up in the wintertime. So the price that you have at the Jersey Shore is the dynamic price. That's right. They're making that money. Yeah, that's when it's busy. So I think you can still go to Disney and make it a value. Are the ticket prices really hard to swallow? Yeah, they are. But when you can go on the attractions all day long, you can see the shows all day long, there's no way around the fact that it's an expensive vacation, and it's one that a lot of people really have to plan for and budget for and save for. But I think comparatively speaking, it's still fairly competitive with a vacation elsewhere.
Yeah. And I think, I mentioned the $206 ticket, and I think that's kind of that's a high number and it attracts attention. It's important to say that if you buy a multi-day ticket, even during, high dynamic pricing times, you're not paying that per day, right? Price does go down. So I think you do kind of have to look beyond maybe the headlines of what the prices are and look into what your specific price would be, because it does go down. And I think, this is a great time to say that we have a whole lot of stuff we can talk about making a Disney vacation affordable. And I think we've decided that we should probably do an episode on that, right?
I definitely think that's something that we need to talk about because people are curious. I see it in the groups all the time, and I'm in a lot of YouTube groups, and a lot of people will come on there and say, how do you do it? How do you afford one Disney trip a year, let alone people that are going multiple times a year or they're going every year? How do you do it? So I think that's something we're definitely going to talk about in a future episode.
Absolutely. So so this article, obviously, something to think about, but there are definitely ways to make it more affordable. And, you really do have to compare kind of the all-in cost versus other vacations.
Absolutely. Good actor? Oh, that was my watch. I hit it by accident. Apparently, I sipped too much water.
Thank you so much for joining us in this episode. Join us next time when we talk to someone who lives on a cruise ship, and we're going to ask all the questions about what it's like to work on a cruise ship and what that experience is like.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Wander and Chat. If you enjoyed today's conversation, don't forget to hit that subscribe button wherever you're listening so you never miss an episode. And hey, if you're in the mood to make our day, leave a review or comment or, send us a postcard. We'll take what we can get. Stay connected, and we'll see you next time. Safe travels, happy wandering, and remember, no matter where you are, we're here to help you get lost in the best possible way. And that's a wrap on another adventure.